Hey everyone, today we're going to be cleaning out my Filco Majestouch 2 mechanical keyboard, but you can follow along with most any mechanical keyboard, so let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab one of these key removal tools. There is another type that has like these metal prongs on it. I do have one somewhere, but I'm not sure where it is, so I'll just show a picture of it on screen. But this is the one I prefer. It's much easier to grab the keys and pull them up, and I'll show you how this works. Alright, so using the key puller is pretty easy. I'm just going to put it over the key, push it down, equal force on both sides. It'll click on both sides so you know it connected to the bottom of the key, and simply pull up with equal force. That way you won't damage anything on the bottom of the key. So I can show the bottom of the keycap there. Okay, so now I'm just going to continue pulling all the keys one by one. And as I'm doing this, I'm showing you that after I pull the keys, I'm sliding them out with my other hand, just so I also don't scratch the sides of the keys. Okay, just a little piece of advice. If you're going to use this style puller to pull your keys, when you get to the keys like Tab, say Control, or the Windows key or the Alt key, you can still pull those keys off. They still attach by a single mold point, but the difference is going to be that because of their angle, when you put this key on, it's most likely not going to grab both sides. It'll grab the back side of the key, but not the front side. So what you're going to want to do is you can still push it down and use this key puller, but when you pull up, you just want to kind of pull on a forward angle. So you kind of want to pull a little bit towards you. When you pull the key up, the key puller is going to look like so, attached to the key. You can see at the front, it's not quite down all the way, but at the back, it does click on. So just be wary of that when you're pulling these size keys up. These are like the medium size keys. Anything bigger than that, anything like the shift, caps lock, spacebar, etc., enter, you can't pull up like that. Okay, so the way that you can tell if the key indefinitely has a stabilizer bar underneath it, if there's nothing obstructing the front view, is if you look underneath here, you can actually see the stabilizer bar, this silver bar underneath here. You can actually see it underneath the shift key, and if you were to pop this up, it would kind of just teeter back and forth because the way that the bar connects doesn't free the key that easily. And even though it's easier to release these style of keys, it's much harder to get them reattached because you cannot see underneath. So even if you get the first stabilizer bar in position on the left side, it's really hard to attach it on the right side because you're working blind. So I suggest this, just not taking them off and cleaning around them. As you can see, there's a ton of gunk in here. I have cats and it's just regular use, I guess. So we'll definitely show an overhead shot of that and then clean everything up. So basically, I just filled up a little water caplet full of water just to the left of the camera, just off frame. And all I'm going to be doing is using some Q-tips to soak them in the water and make sure they're not too soaked so that water's not getting into the keyboard. And then all I'm going to do is run the Q-tip through the lane here. So I'll show you that now. After I'm satisfied with how damp the tip is, I'm just going to run it through. I'm a little bit off frame. I started a little bit off frame, but you can see how much cleaner that lane is immediately. Okay, so here I just want to show you guys how I remove the front and back of the keyboard. This is the back plate of the keyboard. Basically, it's just 3 screws. Let's see if we can see it. There's one there, and then there's a screw hole just on the other side of the flipper there. And you just remove those 3 screws, and then you're going to want to get a flathead screwdriver, or better yet, a butter knife, or something super skinny, like a flat blade. And then you're going to pop off these indents. So you can see them there. There's one there, there's one there, there's one right there, and one right there. Okay. And then for the front just pops off when you take the 3 screws off, so that's that. Remove that. And now we have access to just the bare bones keyboard itself. Okay, so now that we're down to the bare bones keyboard, you can see from there the grind built up just in front of the arrow keys. and below, kind of on the side of the keypad here, and then below where like insert and delete would be, and home, and page up, page down. So if I just tilt that up there, you can definitely see the outline of all the grime. So the reason I took off the front and back plate, well, you need to take off the back plate to get the front one off. So anyways, the reason why the front came off is because you can't really get into the corners. So you'd just be pushing all the gunk into the corners if you didn't do it this way. So I wanted to be really thorough and get everything 100%. So we're doing it this way. Okay, so overall where I have the board right now, I think it's super clean, much better than it looked before. And I said I wasn't going to take off the switches with the stabilizer bars, but I ended up doing that anyway. The first one I ended up taking off was the enter over here on the numpad. I cleaned up underneath there, and I have a couple of the other switches taken off, the space bar included. I have shift, enter here, and backspace loose. Actually, just shift is loose at the moment, just so I could show you guys underneath. I mean, I said I wasn't going to, but while I have the board taken apart, I might as well. Let's just call this a full disassembly at this point. And I'll show you guys the back of the board too. Everything looks so much better on the board in between all the lanes. I did this so meticulously. It took me a lot of time last night. I did a lot of it off camera, but there is a little time lapse of me working on it, so I guess you can look at that. Okay, so I decided the best thing to do to fast track the cleaning of the keys was to just soak them in a mixture of lukewarm water, like neutral water, and some hand soap. I use plant-derived hand soap. You don't want to use anything too abrasive or too harsh or too chemical-based. And then as for getting water out of the plus, like the plus recesses, which you can see right there, as for getting water out of there, I'm just gonna take the keys downstairs to my air compressor and just use air to get the water out for the most part. Okay, so since I last had the keys all soaking in the dish there, I dried them off by hand. I took them downstairs to my air compressor, and then I used the air to dry them off really quickly because I wasn't patient enough to let them hand dry. I also attached all the stabilized bars again: space bar, shift bar, enter, backspace, and insert, enter, and plus on the numpad here. So all the other keys should be all single attachment point keys. And all the keys themselves were all wiped down, so they should all be clean on the inside. If I can get a little reflection in there, it should look much better. There's no more debris or very minimal debris in most of the keys. They're very clean, and then on the outside they're looking way better. On some of the keys there's a mark at the back because of the molding, just a tiny little scratch. It looks like a scratch, but anyways, everything's good to go now, and all I'm going to do now is attach the keys and give you guys a once-over before and after. So quickly, I'm just going to give you guys a once-over of everything before I attach all the other keys and put it back together. So this is the board. From what it used to look like, it's looking much better. Time to put it back together, and I'll see you guys when it's done. Okay, so first thing we need to do is plug in the cord. You'll notice here when you're running the cord that there's a little notch section, like a little fatter section of the cord, and that just sits here in the groove, and that makes sure that there's no tug on the cord when you actually have everything set. And then you can just route the back portion, sit the mold in the little cutout, and everything will be all good to go. And then you can sit the actual keyboard on top of that, and basically just lay your top piece on top of that. If you've done everything correctly with laying the cord, you'll notice that at the back that the PCB itself will lay flush to the plastic below it, all the way across. On the left side it might raise a little bit, and that's just because the cord's sitting underneath there. But when you compress both pieces with the top plastic mold, which you see over there in the background, everything is going to sit snug. At this point now, you can just lay on the top mold. Make sure that the cord at the back is sitting in its correct seating. And now the front will clip in 4 different spots. The sides will clip in. The back has a couple different spots it'll clip in at. But mostly the back stays loose because you still have 3 screws at the back that we were saving. So you should still have these screws laying around somewhere. And then just going to drop those in the back. Gently tighten those up. Now I'm just squeezing around the board just to make sure everything's snug and actually connected. And that's it. Everything's put back together. Everything feels good. Everything's super clean. And now just to plug it in and test that it works still. All right, so if you've been following along throughout the entire video, you now know how to disassemble and reassemble your Filco keyboard. If you enjoyed the video, please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.